All right, to this day, I think, it gets a little bit of a bad rap. Most people hate on it now. But I think probably still to this day, one of the best back exercises to do for just A, strength for sure. And B, like size, if you're trying to increase muscle size, is still the bent over barbell row. Like when you look at most pulling movements, it almost always occurs in the context of, you're trying to hold yourself up or stabilize your back and everything else. So from a skill standpoint, it's great to learn, especially for guys that, implement pulling a lot in their sport, like grapplers, it's still if you're good at barbell rowing, like you're gonna be pretty strong at grappling, in general. You're gonna be really strong in the clinch. And you see a lot of the recruitment patterns in the muscle tend to be fairly similar. So that being said too, and granted, I think a lot of people don't like the barbell row for the same reasons why a lot of people don't like the deadlift. Like grip strength is a limiting factor, if your grip's not very strong, or alternatively you could just use straps. B, the other thing is like a lot of people, they worry about like, you get all this lower back fatigue. That may be the case at first, and this is kind of where you get into, it may not be the best exercise for people who are just starting out on a program, but if you put someone on a decently well-balanced training program, where you're doing a lot of posterior chain work, you're doing a lot of back extensions, you're doing deadlifts, you're developing everything to a pretty high extent. Lower back fatigue shouldn't, after a few months of being on a training program, lower back fatigue shouldn't be a limiting factor when you do your barbell rows, simply because like your lower back's not going to fatigue as much as your actual pulling muscles that you're rowing with, because they're the ones that are you're forcing them to work concentrically. And if your lower back is a limiting factor in the exercise, a lot of times you can just speed up the tempo that you're doing on your barbell rows a little bit, and then your pulling muscles are going to get fatigued long before your lower back does. So that's something to consider as well. Now, that being said, I do think there are some improvements from a technique standpoint some people can make with a barbell row. One of those is simply, if you start off kind of in that hip hinge position. So if you kind of start off in this hip hinge position here, and then you're pulling up, I think a lot of people stand to gain a lot more in terms of just overall muscular development. If we just kind of like hinge forward more, we get into a lower position here, we round out the upper back like this, and then we pull up, and then we allow the back to arch up a little bit, and then back kind of into this position. So I think like doing that, it makes it a little bit easier at the top of the movement, where it's traditionally the hardest, but it also makes it a little more difficult at the bottom of the movement. And by doing that, you kind of, same thing with a lot of other exercises, you smooth out the force curve of the exercise, then you get a little bit more out of the exercise as a whole. And then usually if you ever go back to the version of the rows where, the range of motion is a little bit shorter, you're normally significantly stronger anyways. And then it's just a way to kind of sneak in just a little bit more, upper back strengthening in there as well. So anyways, that's my take kind of on the barbell row. I think it's a great exercise. I think everyone should do it, especially if your goal is to just get stronger overall. In terms of just like general whole body strength, I honestly don't think you can really, I think the barbell, just the bent over barbell row is probably one of the best exercises you can do for just generally getting stronger. That being said, I also recognize, maybe not the best choice for everybody, but maybe if you only care about bodybuilding, or you only care about hypertrophy and you don't care about getting stronger, sometimes the cable and machine versions of it may make a little more sense for you. But anyways, that's just my take on the barbell row. Hope you liked it. I will see you guys later.